Holy crap, AEW Dynasty 2026 was genuinely top to bottom an amazing card. Really just like overall, before I kind of get into it match by match, we had like straight up bangers like every single match. Everything kind of got like the proper time to breathe. It didn't feel like anything felt rushed. Each of these matches just went super hard, and like in my predictions I was completely wrong on like half of these too, because I the way AEW is kind of booking, there's a lot more nuance, it seems like, to how wins and losses can happen, what happens in the ring, essentially. And like that booking really does actually, or I guess that match kind of structure does determine what will happen next storyline wise, which I kind of love that. Like the first match we had, which, man, this is already a dream match to me, and even as a casual AEW viewer. But like this tag match between the Jacksons, the Young Bucks, and Kazuchika Okada and Konosuke Takeshita, man, like that was already a dream match for me, like on paper, and holy crap, this match delivered in typical kind of Young Bucks fashion. It was super fast paced, a lot of chemistry spots between the Bucks, kind of overwhelming Okada and Konosuke essentially initially with their tandem offense, that patented Young Bucks stuff, and then eventually kind of as Konosuke and Okada kind of settled into the match a little bit more, that confidence and the power and speed that both the men had kind of advantages over with the Young Bucks started to use, and started to have some tandem moves. It was a really fun back and forth, I forget how fun it was to watch the Young Bucks. They're one of the best tag teams ever. There's no other team. I feel like a lot of teams try to, and a lot of just wrestlers try to replicate the feelings and style of what you experience during really any Young Bucks match. The thrills of those high spots, the kind of the fluid choreography like and action sequences that you would almost usually see in like a movie, you see here in a lot of what the Young Bucks kind of do. And then Okada and Konosuke being some of the best counter wrestlers, if not some of the greatest wrestlers in the world as well, paired with with the best tag team ever. It was going to be an obvious W. And I love the story and the way this match finishes. Konosuke has a complete opportunity to help Okada kind of escape a Meltzer driver from the Young Bucks, but essentially instead of doing that, he kind of lets go because there was a bunch of miscommunications that kind of led up to that predicament in the first place. But she kind of had Okada hitting a Rainmaker on Konosuke hitting Okada with the knee, and a lot of really cool creative spots. Essentially, he lets the Young Bucks hit the Indie Taker on Okada to get the pin, and it just overall, like I said, a super fun match, like just super enjoyable. And I would love to even see them all scrap again, but I think now moving forward we're going to be seeing Okada and Konosuke kind of at it now, which sounds entirely like I'm all game for that. If they vie over the Continental title, that would be great at Double or Nothing, please, since I'm going there, please, in New York. That'd be super awesome. Super awesome match, and great opener to start off the show. Like one of my favorite tag matches probably of the year so far, but that's because I think I've been watching I need to be watching more promotions, but this was dope. This was super dope. Absolutely fantastic match. Super fun and refreshing to see the Young Bucks in doing what they do best, after not watching AEW for so long, and not watching like indie stuff which they were like the kings of essentially for a while. So super fun to kind of see that and see them kind of take a W here at the expense obviously of the Don Callis family's inner working starting to crumble. So we'll see kind of more on Wednesday what kind of that entails, right? Once again, another just banger, which I didn't expect it to be. Like I know never to doubt Jericho because he's a legend, right? But like he is, especially amongst a card of like this type of wrestling and how fast it can move and everything, you're always gonna have doubts regardless of just when people come back, how will they fare amongst people like a Ricochet and stuff like that, for example. But with this match with Jericho and Ricochet, Jericho returning to AEW amongst swirling rumors that he was going to return probably at this year's WrestleMania. Everyone thought he was going to be WWE bound for some sort of maybe retirement tour, similar type of thing. No, he came back with Judas playing. Everyone is super excited. and challenged, or Ricochet kind of came out, ruined the parade. Jericho then was like, all right, bet, let's fight at Dynasty. And we kind of landed here with this match. Now, this match, to me, was like a return to form in a similar way to when he had that match at Wrestle Kingdom 12 with Kenny Omega. I think a lot of people, for the longest time, especially when, you know, he kind of had his stride in AEW after the first couple of years, were kind of, you know, I think tuned out of what he was doing for a while. And I think him coming back and kind of, especially with the list coming back and being more candid, it did kind of feel like he was being more reflective on that. And now kind of seeing him in return to form, ring shape wise, and just him and Ricochet putting on such an amazing match with some really good spots here, and him executing everything extremely well and taking these gnarly bumps, it feels like another, once again, reinvigoration of Jericho's character. And I'm excited to see where he kind of goes next on this, in this, you know, potential ride into the sunset, or maybe even one more championship or viable singles run. You know, Ricochet, one of the best in the world, and he's in there with Jericho, who isn't a slouch either, but also probably still has one of the best in-ring IQs of all time. You know, Jericho has managed to, in the latter half of his career, put on some of the best, like, psychological in-ring performances as well. I think within the later half of his career, despite the beginning of it still being one of the greatest, I think, in ring as well. Anyway, he's always been one of the in-ring greats, even within WCW. You know what I mean? I think he was always a well-regarded in-ring worker. You know, so for him to have almost not necessarily, well, yeah, an instant classic kind of with Ricochet, speaks to not only you know, how great Ricochet is as a dance partner, but the longevity and elasticity, like that LeBron-like kind of you know, presence that Jericho has in terms of his in-ring. People are still clamoring to work with him. He still has people like Ricochet and stuff that want that have these cool ideas for spots that they can both execute, and we've seen this kind of at play here. And it was surprising because I thought Jericho would win on this comeback, you know what I mean? I thought Ricochet can kind of eat this one, but they kind of had Ricochet cheat to win and are furthering this kind of forward with, like, kind of sending the Canadian crowd home kind of sad about that one, with having Ricochet kind of go over. Like, wow, I didn't think that was going to happen. I'm actually happy they are moving forward with that, because that's a huge win for Ricochet over a legend like Jericho. It gives him more credence to maybe move forward with this heel faction that they have that looks super great. They all came out in these one-piece Admiral jackets, which I thought was super awesome. It was super fun, and both Jericho looks like $1 million coming back, and Ricochet looks great and you know, very punchable as a heel, which I think, man, it's been so refreshing to see for Ricochet be, you know, lambasted as a heel, which I think when we were seeing him in WWE, we would have never thought he would be capable of. But you know, sometimes it's always the structure or wherever you are, you know. The freaking shooting star press into code breaker, that could have just been the finish, but Ricochet kicks out, you know, and eventually was able to get the win. But man, this match was freaking awesome. Like, it felt like that, even in that spot, it felt like the essence of, like, you know, the Chris Jericho in 1990, if he was wrestling Ricochet, would have been the spot. Jericho is back, and he's back, like, you know, at full force, you know, and I'm really excited to see what he does next, kind of with you know, maybe Ricochet or whoever he maybe moves on to, or whatever Ricochet kind of does next as well. So this next match, Darby Allin and Andrade El Idolo, every time I watch Darby Allin wrestle, it's genuinely like I'm just wincing all the time. The spots and the stuff that Darby's willing to put his body through to you know, tell a story and to, you know, to really make this genuine is insane. This match was great between essentially two kind of crowd favorites right now, and like in vying for, you know, this world title contention, right? You know, wanting to face whoever wins the main event of Dynasty, right, on the next following this coming Wednesday's Dynamite, right? This one particularly extremely brutal because, like I said, Darby he just seems like a masochist, you know what I mean? And like immediately they take it all the way to the outside. There was one spot in particular that just really was gnarly, where essentially Darby they're fighting up essentially the one of the like mezzanines or whatever, where the crowds would be in the decks essentially, so like up those stairs, right? And essentially Darby is on top, while Andrade's below, and Darby runs and gives him a missile drop kick to Andrade, but Darby just kind of straight lands on the corners of the stairs, like on his back, and then you see like the huge kind of welt that was like developing on his like lower back from that, or taking that landing. He's one of those guys that, like a Mick Foley, like it's genuine, when he's in there, it's genuine. Even had the way he was coming to the ring, he was like, he freaking was doing like some sort of like Muslim prayer, like he got the child's pose in the middle of the ring, like before he was like praying, to the gods, please don't let me kill anybody right now. Let me just get through this match. Even, and Andrade too was extremely entertaining. You know what I mean? Like he's also, one of the best. I've always been a fan of Andrade. It's really fun to see him, go bell to bell with Darby Allin right here, and like it seems like have a lot more of a character instead of being super stoic and menacing comparatively in WWE. I mean, like he's leaned into like the pretty boy gimmick, which I think is actually pretty funny and gives him some sort of endearing qualities than just kind of like a stoic Alberto Del Rio type of character that he had kind of in WWE. Like this is more identifiable. Like the dude's a good looking guy, why not do some goofy model stuff? It's kind of fun, and I think he leans into it super well, so he can play it off in a suave way, and it's a super fun gimmick to kind of have for like a face gimmick. I think it works pretty well. It resulted in a super just brutal match, but like I said, and even in my predictions, I thought Andrade was gonna win. Darby proved to be unkillable and has won this match in a gnarly way. Every time I see him do that coffin drop, bro, oof, man. But anyway, Darby does take the W here, mouthful of blood. Super fun and like enjoyable, hard-hitting match that went like up into the stand. Super fun, and there was a kind of a show of respect there. So I do think initially Andrade is going to stop being buddy with the Don Callis family and eventually go full face, I believe. But I think we're just seeing little inklings of that essentially right now for the time being. The next match we had was the AEW World Tag Team Championship match, which was essentially a dream match. We had Adam Copeland, Christian Cage, the legendary tag team of TLC like fame, against the modern kind of legends, or you'd say modern, maybe goated tag team, in the Revival, or I should say FTR. This match also completely blew my expectations away. I was also wrong on the prediction, as FTR did retain in like super heelish fashion, but like this was another team that I missed watching from like NXT days in FTR. Seeing them again, but being able to wrestle another pair of tag team like masterminds was awesome. I think Edge and Christian, mind-wise, have not lost a step, and I think FTR are always like so far ahead, I feel like, in how they plot out these spots and do things in their timing, that it always feels super urgent and like a mad rush when you're wrestling FTR. I love how this match was playing out, essentially like FTR kind of really outsmarted Adam and Christian just by their prowess, and they kind of really just escaped with the W here in a really hard fought match that had so many false finishes that it could have went either way. It was a classic tag team match. It was super fun, and especially after what I thought would be a dejected crowd after banger after banger, kept them entertained, and it was super fun to see Adam and Christian in rare form, in that we haven't seen in such a literally 15 years plus. I don't think I can remember the last time they teamed, and it probably was in WWE like in the early 2000s. So super rare air, and awesome to see this dream match kind of unfold and kind of materialize in the best way possible, and I think there's still more to be had, because FTR kind of, like I said, escaped with this one with some cheesy finish, super slick finish into a second shatter machine. But man, like blew my expectations away. Super fun match. And then next, what I'd say was probably like the weakest match on the card, and not literally because like of like any bad indicators, but because of simply it being kind of like a gauntlet match with a lot of more like, you know, spot heavy things and less of a story focus, but super cool regardless and super fun. It was for the TNT championship that Kyle Fletcher unfortunately had to relinquish due to his knee injury that he has suffered. Like I said, it was super fun, like Ciampa, Rush, Bandito, super big standout, Speedball. You know, you had Garcia, you know, Anthony Bowens of tag team acclaimed fame. You know, it was a really fun match. I think a lot of kicking, a lot of super hard strikes, and a surprise winner of Kevin Knight, Jet 2 Fly, bro. If they let him hold the title for a little bit, these next couple defenses, if they're gonna have him like on, you know, Collision or Dynamite, should be, you know, they should be outstanding because he's a really fun guy to watch. So it should be really fun. You know, I don't know how long the reign will be, but we'll kind of see what goes on. I think it was kind of a shock a little bit compared to a lot of the people that were in this battle or this kind of casino gauntlet match. You know, I think this was kind of an upset in a way. So we'll see what they kind of do with it moving forward. But it was super fun. And moving on, we have our this match was crazy. This was another hard-hitting one too. We had our AEW Women's World Championship title match. We had the defending champion Thelka against Jamie Hayter. There's a couple spots here where like Jamie's selling a couple big boots and being thrown out the ring by Thelka here, and like, holy crap, like, Jesus, this was hard hitting. Like, they were both beating the crap out of each other. The forearms were gnarly. Jamie was throwing out a couple headbutts that were super like just snug, you know what I mean? And by the end of it, I was like, God damn, like this could really go either way. So basically, Thelka kind of like escapes essentially with a kind of really cheesy spider kind of roll up, and then she uses like a spider bridge to essentially hold onto the corner ropes to like have leverage for the pin. There was another spot kind of where she does that cool bridge, like essentially, and Jamie kind of reversed it into a power bomb. Like, she picked her up from the bridge into a power bomb. That was super. It was super like finesse, like beautiful. Just kind of had me in awe. Like, we kind of saw in this match like the resourcefulness and kind of like slyness of Thelka, but like the straight power and like kind of strong style Joshi Lariato like attitude that Jamie Hayter kind of brings in wrestling. Just another great like world title match. Like, this was just super hard hitting, and like I said, I don't think it's the end between these two because Thelka obviously cheated and she barely escaped Jamie Hayter here, and it seems like there might be a stronger single push kind of coming for Jamie now as well, maybe being one of the more popular faces kind of chasing after the AEW world title. But we'll see if she's gonna do that or kind of like maybe go for the tag team titles with Alex. We'll see. But this was a super awesome match, and I would love to see these two kind of go at it for a little bit in like maybe a more developed program, but we'll see kind of what goes on. I'm actually really excited also for Thelka to even lean more into her heelness and her mannerisms. It's super fun to watch. I think her style is super cool too. I have not really been able to watch a lot of her stuff, so it's super unique to see how like she kind of slides and glides and kind of does her stuff. Like, her spear is super sick too. So then we had our AEW Continental Championship match, the battle of the necks, like who can kill whose neck first, I guess. Jon Moxley and Will Ospreay. Holy crap, I love the story though of this match. So essentially, like, the context is that Ospreay was essentially put on the shelf for 6 months because Jon Moxley kayfabe breaks Ospreay's neck with like a crazy concerto, I think I remember, with like, or like either curve stomp, I can't remember, where like he had his neck like lodged in the chair. On this return, this Continental Championship match, you know, there's that essential pretense that Ospreay is on, and you can tell from the moment the bell rings, he doesn't care about really win or loss. He cares about, like, he literally verbalizes breaking Jon Moxley's effing neck. And this whole match, like, the match starts, immediate hidden blade. Jon is completely stunned, like, tries to come back up, but like he just took a finish, so like he's essentially out of it. Another hidden blade. Ospreay had this match won almost immediately, but instead of taking the opportunity to put it away, he gave into his revenge. And what kind of precedes that is yes, an amazing match, but like one where it's essentially Ospreay kind of sacrificing his body and trying to destroy someone else's body, but realizing he ended up paying the price. John was kind of goading Ospreay in essentially to being extremely aggressive, and it super played out in his favor essentially. In this match, it was kind of a masterclass in that. Obviously, there was amazing counter wrestling from Ospreay against Moxley. Moxley had a lot of nasty, like there was a Gosh style pile driver he hits on Ospreay, and then another pile driver he hit like on the steps that was gnarly. A lot of great spots here, just super gnarly brutality and urgency from both sides. Will Ospreay really felt like he was out to kill this man. There was a call from Excalibur where Ospreay was staring at Renee Good, who is ringside reporter, but also in real life Moxley's wife, and Excalibur made that comment that Will Ospreay would seem to make or have like a dark remorseful look at Renee as if he was gonna or do something to her husband. It's just a lot of good calls, super intense match. Despite not even really having a gimmick here, it did feel real dangerous because of the intentions of what was trying to be done by both parties. Moxie ends up getting the win here. I did think Ospreay was going to take it upon his return, but I do love the story of him being overzealous and filled with hatred, so he lost sight and didn't immediately take what was right in front of him, which was that Continental title, which he should have done. Super great match. I love unique starts to matches or unique stories told within matches that really throw you off kilter, and then you don't know what to expect. Super fun, and I love they did that. Love these two. They have amazing chemistry. They fought once, I think, on New Japan soil before, if I remember, and it was super fun. Super excited to see what happens next with John and an Ospreay and this Continental title. And then kind of like on a lighter note, but still, well, I say on a lighter note, but unfortunately we actually did witness an injury here for Gabe Kidd, but we had the AEW World Trios Championship tag match between the conglomeration of a returning Kyle O'Reilly with Roderick Strong and Orange Cassidy against the what used to be the Bullet Club Gold, the War Dogs, essentially David Finlay, Gabe Kidd, and Clark Connors, who just won the titles, unfortunately, too, and now lost them 24 hours kind of earlier. And this match was really good. Unfortunately, though, Gabe Kidd did get injured here. Allegedly, people were saying it was like some sort of shoulder injury, but regardless, David and Clark are super great wrestlers anyway from New Japan fame, which I know them from, so they were able to kind of clean up and have a really compelling match with Roderick Strong, Kyle O'Reilly, who are also some of the best tag team wrestlers ever, right? And Orange Cassidy. So, it was really fun, and then also an unexpected kind of fun championship win for the conglomeration, unfortunately due to this real injury for Gabe Kidd, who, man, especially after that Darby Allin match for me, had so much momentum in the world, and it was really looking like his year, so I hopefully his recovery is quick. I wish the best for Gabe. He's super entertaining, even on the entrance, coming out fake pissing on the fucking couch that the conglomeration used for their skit to show Kyle O'Reilly's return. It was super fun. I wish the best for Gabe. I hope he's able to come back as soon as possible. I hope they can use him in some sort of capacity, because even as just a mouthpiece, he would be excellent on TV. Yes, Orange Cassidy, Roderick Strong, and Kyle O'Reilly are your new trios champions in a really fun bout. Unfortunately, though, we did have the injury of Gabe Kidd, who I do think is one of the biggest upcoming stars that AEW kind of has right now. So hopefully, his recovery is swift, like I said. And our last match, our last banger of the night for the AEW World title, we had MJF, the defending champion, against the god of pro wrestling, Kenny Omega. Man, we knew that going in this would be an amazing match, but I think every time you kind of go in, especially with a Kenny Omega match in recent times, with kind of like a lot of the narratives kind of surrounding his health and stuff, you kind of always wonder if he can go at that mythical level that he seems to always take it up a notch, and you do see it here completely. You kind of have the story of MJF having to kind of invoke that out in him a little bit, but once it gets going, MJF kind of has to do his best to chase it. Like Omega brings up the table super early, does the double foot stomp, you know what I mean, and it's super gnarly and is just taking MJF to town, whereas MJF has to be extremely kind of crafty and counter wrestle a lot of Omega's onslaught and offense with a kind of slight help from, I guess the idea of diverticulitis kind of affecting Kenny Omega. His midsection with well-placed knees starts to kind of falter, which then kind of leads to the eventual win for MJF, where it does deflate the crowd. I do think this was the good call here. While it was like the hero's welcome for Kenny Omega, the way everything was kind of done here kind of serves the story that MJF kind of basically escapes Omega. Omega is still essentially, you would say essentially kayfabe, top of the card, but essentially with MJF using the diamond ring to kind of hit him in the stomach and stuff like that, you'd have your cheat win that protects Omega and keeps MJF as your champion, your top heel guy. You can kind of have justifications as well for Kenny to kind of chase the title now, and obviously I think your chase with the top face is always kind of what you want here, especially with how the crowd was really fiending for Omega to win here, obviously in his hometown and stuff like that. But at the same time, Kenny's one of the biggest like stars AEW has, so any match that he kind of is in is seen as a money match, so there's always equity in him chasing for the title. And it felt like that this whole time with MJF here. Super fun match. A lot of crazy spots. The knees that Omega was kind of given were insane. MJF was super lucky to survive the super finisher of the One Wing Angel from the top rope, just because the ref was sidelined temporarily just due to MJF shenanigans. Those shenanigans are what kind of helped him win, retrieving the Dynamite ring from a collapsed ref, like I said earlier, to punch Kenny Omega in his compromised stomach. And while, like the commentary said in a super really good call, while MJF has technically a victory over Kenny Omega, once again, there's another asterisk to it, which, has kind of followed a lot of MJF's career, a lot of asterisks of using help, cheating and taking the short route, and so another layer kind of in the story for MJF and his legacy, and then Kenny Omega's in creating another classic match. There's still, I think, an upside to Kenny Omega maybe vying again for it, we're going to see MJF versus Darby Allin now kind of during Dynamite, which should be super fun. I think that mythical match actually could potentially be an all-in banger if Darby does win the title, but we'll see if they plant the seeds for that, or if this is just a kind of a one-off. MJF is the perfect heel. He is the perfect devil. The ending shot of him essentially doing the devil horns, descending back down after beating Omega, was super fun with the flames going off. But just in general, as a first for me for AEW pay-per-view, this was amazing. It kind of gave me that WrestleMania kind of fix that I've been looking for. I'm so excited for that, and I'm not going to turn that video into this, so we'll kind of leave it at that. But it was just super fun. Everything was given proper time. It felt like every match was like a big pay-per-view level match, and that's what I expect usually out of a pay-per-view. It should. Do I think they could be shorter? Absolutely. I didn't even really talk about the 0-hour matches that happened because I didn't really have time to watch them. I had to watch this pay-per-view in 2 parts, so that's something we can address. But overall, the quality and quantity was plentiful, and that seems to be the MO right now for AEW. So I'm super excited for their next pay-per-view, Double or Nothing. I'm going to be there with my dad up there in the Louis Armstrong Stadium. So that should be really fun. Probably going to see, the theoretical winner of Darby and MJF over there defending the title. So hopefully that should be fun. Let me know what you guys kind of thought about the whole pay-per-view. I thought it was pretty fun. I wasn't really mad with any of the results either, and I was kind of happy to be wrong and on a lot of the predictions I made. So super fun, super refreshing, great pro wrestling, love to see it, and I can't wait to see what happens on Wednesday. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Let me know what you guys kind of thought about Dynasty, and I'll see you guys later.